Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show at our new early Thursday time. I am your host, Kyle Northrup, and I actually liked Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And if you know Kyle at all, you know that is an amazing statement. He went and saw the show yesterday, so while I was doing spoilers all day yesterday, and he was producing the show, he ran off, took his headset off so he wouldn't hear the spoilers, and he went and saw the movie after the show. Well, I get a message from him late saying, I liked it, 9.2 out of 10. I thought, wow, that's a really good rating for Kyle, who hates everything. He's very contrary. And then a few minutes later, I get another message from him. Just watched the end credit scene, 9.5 out of 10. I'm thinking he's texting me the moment the movie ended. Well, Shang-Chi gets Kyle's seal of approval. That's pretty good. He's a tough one. He's one of the few people I know who didn't look forward to, JD. Exactly. What? He liked it? Yep, I know. Isn't it odd? Yep. And he didn't like the Hawkeye trailer. And I don't know anybody who didn't like the Hawkeye trailer. Yet he's excited about The Matrix. So he's an odd guy. He may be watching too. Hey, Kyle. All right. Before we jump into our topic of the day, which is going to be Marvel's What If, the latest episode being What If Killmonger saved Tony Stark. And then we're also going to talk about the mid-season trailer that they showed, which wasn't really mid-season since we're 6 episodes in, but I have an idea of why that is. Anyway, before we do that, there was one bit of news I'm going to borrow here from Comic Book Resources. And they're talking about upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Now, besides Marvel, I also am a big Star Wars fan. I love The Mandalorian. I'm looking forward to Book of Boba Fett. So as long as we're not talking about the last 3 movies, I am all on board. And they're talking about Sung Kang from Fast 9 or F9. And he's talking to, I don't know if they say, Screen Rant. So he did an interview with Screen Rant, and he was talking about joining the Star Wars universe, which is a big deal for a lot of people, especially of the right age, you grew up and everything. Now, he talks about the fact that he says, I used to dress up in a cheap Kmart plastic Halloween costume, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, almost every single day from age 8 to 13. My friends and I would play pretend, and we would make our own lightsabers out of toilet paper centers and stuff like that, and paper towel cardboard. Okay, we've all done that. You hit the paper towel roll, and we've all done that. But he goes on to say, to be able to be on set and see Darth Vader and see the Star Wars universe in front of me, I mean, just as a fan, to be able to be part of the history is pretty amazing. I kept pinching myself. How did I end up here? And my character has a lightsaber to go, what? This is not a toy. It's actually the real thing. So pretty cool. That's him. He, of course, played Han Solo in Fast and the Furious. And I didn't realize that was his name in Fast and the Furious. But he's going to be playing an Inquisitor in the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series. A minion of Darth Vader, and they were introduced in Rebels, so it should be interesting to see how that works out. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Here's a guy who loves Star Wars, grew up loving Star Wars, and now, like a lot of actors, they're getting their chance to be in the universe, and I think that's pretty awesome. So, all right. Before we get too deep into it, though, I want to give you guys an idea of what we got for you today on The Experience. Being in the front slot, it's easy for me to line up the evening. So after today's show, which will be 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 p.m., we have a replay of our Post-it anniversary weekend, we have one of our interviews that was Miss Jen and Jenna and Will as they talked to Kevin and Nathan from Behemoth Comics. So if you're a Behemoth comic fan, you want to stick around just after the show and see the interview with Kevin and Nathan. I if it's the interview I think it is, I do a quick cameo in there and spoil their big reveal that they hadn't made yet. So it's pretty funny. You're going to have to pay attention to that. After that is What's in the Box, the comic sales show. And that's from 7 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, What's in the Box? 7 to 9. You had that quick. Damn, Kyle. Or JD. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to do another posted anniversary weekend interview with Kyle and Jenna talking to Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc. So we got a couple interviews from the Big Dog Inc. and Behemoth Comics, and in between, we've got one of our sales show, What's in the Box. So stick around for that, and let's get into Marvel's What If. Now, you know what? Let's go ahead, and we've got a trailer that's kind of a mid-season teaser, which I think is pretty interesting, especially with what we just watched. So, JD, if you're ready, let's do that trailer, and then we'll talk.
Why stop at one hero when we can show you all of them? Heroes are forged in darkness, defined by sacrifice. There is still hope for the multiverse. Here we go.
We do not back down from a fight.
Aye, aye, Commander.
Now or never.
Zombies, great idea.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
Hey!
Who needs a plan? I have a shield.
What happened to you? You will see. Witness the biggest heroes of the multiverse.
Or small, if you catch my drift.
What if?
You know what they say, when you're out of luck, always go duck. I'm pretty sure no one says that.
Now streaming, only on Disney+.
I like Howard the Duck. It's going to make me smile every time I see him. All right. So what's interesting about that clip or that trailer is that it's a mix of things we've already seen and some we haven't. But it's done in such a way that it makes it seem like we might get all of these heroes. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to get a handful of them. You know, I don't think we're going to get the Hulk. Well, the Hulk was from the zombie episode. The Vision was from the zombie episode. There was no new footage of them, but there was footage of Black Widow throwing a shield, which we haven't seen yet, of Gamora swinging Thanos' big sword, double-edged sword. We haven't seen that yet. There's a scene of Pepper and Shuri working together. We haven't seen that yet, even though it kind of hints at it in this last one. But these are things we haven't seen yet. There's some Captain Carter stuff. There's more zombie stuff. We get to see Party Thor, which we haven't gotten yet. And there's a chance we should have gotten Party Thor by now. That's the interesting thing is I've been hearing online and from a couple sources that Marvel may not be getting the numbers they were really hoping for with this series, that people aren't quite taking it as important as it is. So they shifted 2 episodes around. the zombie episode, which would have been later, got moved up to the 5th episode, which would have been Party Thor, because they thought zombies would be a bigger draw for that week. So that's why it's kind of an interesting mix with that that trailer, that mid-season trailer, and why it's actually 6 episodes in instead of 5 on a 9-episode season. Originally, it was supposed to be a 10-episode season, and they did cut one of the episodes, so it's getting kind of interesting there. But let's talk about the episode itself. This was a pretty good episode. Now, it's not my favorite. I've liked all the episodes, but I would put this one probably 4th or 5th of the 6. You know, it's kind of hard to say. They've all got good and bad. I mean, that's the interesting thing. I'm not a zombie fan, so I didn't particularly like that, but I love the character interactions in that episode. The jokes and stuff in the T'Challa Star-Lord one were great, but it felt the story was just kind of, you know, so it's kind of funny that they're all got good and bad. So in the end, they're all pretty even. I still think the murder mystery one's my favorite just because it's a murder mystery, you know, and also it's Yellow Jacket. So that's actually Hank Pym. By the way, JD, can we do a spoiler thing? Did we lose JD? There we go. So that's right. And we're going to need the little thing up here too. But thank you. So murder mystery one was good. That's probably my favorite still. This one, if you are a fan of the Black Panther movie or the Iron Man movies, this is a good one for you because it does really combine the Iron Man movies because they pull from all of them, even though it's mainly the first one. And they pull from Black Panther. And there are a lot of people who consider Killmonger the best villain created in the MCU. He's up there. I will absolutely say that. Up there with Hela, with Wenwu, with Thanos, Red Skull. I mean, there's some great villains in the MCU. And there's some bad ones, too. Or ones that never really got the time to shine, like Malekith. Malekith probably could have been a very good villain, but he never really got time to expand. And recently there was talking about, I think it's Alan Taylor was the name of the director of Thor the Dark World. And he was saying that a lot of stuff was cut from the movie. So maybe there's a director's cut out there somewhere that makes Malekith a much better character. I would like to see that because I'm a Christopher Eccleston fan and I'm a Thor fan and I like the big fantasy part of it. So that would be cool to see, but I don't know if they'll ever do that. I don't see Marvel kind of going into that. They're like, well, the movie we released is the movie we released. But then again, I could also see them kind of retconning things too. Like, you know, can we CG Don Cheadle into all the scenes with Terrence Howard? Which they did in this episode, by the way. Wherever the roadie in this, even though it should have been Terrence Howard, it was Don Cheadle. So, JD, we're talking about Marvel's What If, both the latest episode and the mid-credit scene that popped up, or the mid-season trailer that was released this week as well. So today's all about What If. That's what we're doing on Thursdays. Thursdays is our spoilery conversation night. This will also be where we talk about Hawkeye when that comes out. And I have a feeling that should get a lot of attention. I think Hawkeye is going to be a damn good series. And if you missed it on Monday, I did a deep dive into the Hawkeye trailer, breaking down a lot of stuff. But aren't they all spoiler nights? No, not always. Sometimes I just do the news. Sometimes I have guests, but a lot of them are. So, the What If episode, it starts off almost straight up from Iron Man 1. Just, other than it's missing the AC/DC music, we get the Humvees driving through the desert, we get the attack, but there's little subtle differences, and I don't know if they're mistakes or if they're intentional changes to show that this is a different universe. And I mean subtle in the fact, like when the guy's posing with Tony and he wants to have a picture taken, he pulls the camera out. In the animated version, he pulls the camera out immediately and is holding it when he asks to do the picture. In the movie, he doesn't pull it out until after he says yes. Or once the firefight starts and Tony gets out of the van, the Humvee, and runs for cover, pulls out his phone, it's a different kind of phone. The one in What If is just a flip phone, where the one Tony had in the movie was that weird sidekick one or whatever they called it. So there are these subtle changes that aren't necessary. And I don't know if it's, we just drew a phone, or if it's, we're trying to establish that this is a very different universe. So all these little things are different too. Now, the biggest thing is JD says, I'm guessing the sidekick phone was in the original because the makers paid them. Yeah, there's a good chance. By the way, we got two JDs. Producer JD said that. And also, there's no conversation about MySpace, which took place in the original movie too, because here we are 13 years later, and there is really no MySpace. I mean, MySpace is still there, but nobody does it. Nobody goes there. But if you still have a MySpace account, let me know. I'm just kind of curious why. I mean, I turned mine off, which is years and years ago now. But so Tony's sitting there. He's about the Stark bomb lands, and he's about to get blown up. I'm only on Friendster. I believe that, JD. And suddenly, Killmonger shows up, grabs the bomb, and throws it away, which is kind of impressive because that doesn't look like it's light, and he just kind of one arm swings it away and gets it far enough distance. I've never picked up an actual bomb like that, but I would think it's got some weight to it. Interesting. So, yeah, I was just kind of curious about that, but all these little changes, and then from there, the movie kind of follows it kind of a mix between Iron Man 1 and Black Panther. We kind of delve back and forth and also mix in some scenes from Avengers Age of Ultron. And it's just kind of an interesting mix. But after he's rescued, Watcher pops up, and we see much more of the Watcher now. He's fully formed. And it's not just like a little silhouette or anything anymore. We're fully seeing the Watcher. And he talks about how, heroes are forged in darkness. And we see Tony Stark in the cave with the box of scraps. And then how he becomes Iron Man. We see the Avengers spin around. Except in this case, he doesn't become Iron Man because he never gets blown up. So he never has a reason to make the mini arc reactor and to build the suit. So, it's it's pretty interesting. So instead, when he goes back and he has his press conference and he's announcing instead, I'm not going to make any weapons. He's like, no, we need to make better weapons. And he was bringing Killmonger in for to be the head of security, which would have been Happy's job, and Happy's not happy about that. But he also, in the middle of the press conference, outs Obadiah Stane as the one that put the hit on Tony. And he brings the receipts, as he says, and he's dumped them all on Google, and which I don't know he would have said that back then. He probably would have said Facebook or MySpace. But yeah, so and Obadiah is busted, and he tries to get away, and Happy gets to deck him, and that's, things just kind of change from there. But what we end up seeing is this insanely detailed plan that Killmonger has put together. It's basically a giant chess game where he's kind of manipulating back and forth through the different movies or things that happen in the different movies to get his revenge and to get his power. And it is kind of a fascinating thing because Killmonger was a manipulative person in the Black Panther movie. And they told us a lot about his past. Now we're kind of moving into his past and seeing some of the things they said. There's a point that Everett Ross is explaining to T'Challa who Killmonger is. And he talks about how, he graduated from MIT at like 19. So he's really smart. And how he joined the Navy SEALs and ended up in Afghanistan and started racking up kills like it was a video game. And kind of explain away the name Killmonger, that is, as a nickname. And then now we see, he was in Afghanistan at the same time as Tony Stark. And he says that he was actually working undercover as part of the 10 Rings. That's how he discovered about the hit on Tony and the information about Obadiah Stane, which is a nice little twist. I mean, that really does make sense to connect the story. But, it still keeps with what we know about the character already. It's not this huge change. So could he have been part of the 10 Rings when they are attacking Tony? Absolutely. Didn't have to be at that particular cave, but he could have been part of the 10 Rings. And the choice between that universe and our universe was he decided to use Tony Stark as part of his manipulation plan. It's a pretty interesting setup, Now, we did get a lot of the actors back for this, but not all of them. Chadwick Boseman came back for T'Challa. Danny Guerrero came back for Okoye. Hang on a second, I'm not on the right. There we go, not on the right list. So Michael B. Jordan is Killmonger, Jon Favreau is Happy Hogan, Angela Bassett came back as Queen Ramonda, Andy Serkis was there as Ulysses Klaue, Paul Bettany as Jarvis, John Connie for T'Chaka, and Leslie Bibb popped up for the lines for Christine Everhart, Don Cheadle when Rhodey's on the scene. Where it gets different is Mick Wingert plays Tony Stark, and he's done that in a bunch of video games and cartoons and stuff. Beth Hoyt is Pepper Potts. Kif Vander Heuvel is doing the voice of Obadiah Stane, but that's a tough one. I mean, that sounds like him perfectly. It's got two people. Mike McGill or Michael Patrick McGill as General Ross and Ozumi Akage as Shuri. So unlike most of the other ones that have like one or two people aren't back, this one has quite a bit. A lot of the actors from Iron Man didn't come back. Other than Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau, because even technically Don Cheadle wasn't in the original Iron Man movie, Terrence Howard was. So the fact that Don Cheadle is in there, he is the MCU actor that plays Rhodey, but he's not the one that played it in the Iron Man movie we're really following. And like I said, they also dance into Iron Man 2 and stuff like that. But by doing this manipulation, Killmonger changes a lot of things. Tony never makes an Iron Man suit. And in doing so, is there still an Avengers? Don't know. We never see that. But he does start working with Killmonger on this tech suit, this suit of armor that he wanted to replace soldiers with. And it looks like a straight out of a Gundam. Yeah, it looks like a Gundam, flat out. And that's probably Michael B. Jordan's influence. Michael B. Jordan is known for being a big manga fan, huge Gundam fan, and a bunch of others. But Gundam is one of the tops, and it looks like a Gundam mech. Just absolutely. And this is supposedly his project from when he was at MIT. And Tony just goes, "Oh, let's see what we can do with your science project." And he tells Jarvis to pull up it from the computer, the MIT computer, which is pretty interesting. That it makes you wonder how much is Tony connected to MIT that he can just pull from their computer system. And has he always been looking for like a protege? I mean, he kind of takes Peter Parker as a protege for a while. Here he is with Killmonger. Has he been watching others? He pays for all the people at MIT, their research projects and their tuitions or whatever it is. How much has he been looking for? And will that be part of the Riri Williams story? I know Riri Williams is going to be introduced in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Will we find out that Tony was funding her education or something like that? Because the character is supposed to be connected to Tony Stark, but with the character having already passed in the MCU, they can't really do that connection anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But here we still see his connection to MIT and that desire of his to kind of have a protege. Maybe he doesn't want a kid, but he wants someone that he can train and stuff. So I think that's kind of an interesting connection, and you'll have to see how that plays out, both in What If, but also in the live action movies. I think that'd be something to keep an eye on. All right, we're coming up to the halfway point in the episode, so let me go ahead and have JD run some commercials, and we will be right back.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Henri Compen. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Yi Sun Shin, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. We are talking today about Marvel's What If and the most recent episode, What If Killmonger Saved Tony Stark? But before we get back to the conversation, I'd like you to do me a favor. Hit the like buttons, the subscribe buttons, the thumbs up, the heart buttons, the hugs, whatever it is. Hit those buttons for me, will you? Let me know you guys think, what you think of the show. Throw some comments in and join in on the conversation. We got this big long line of comments over there. And, join in the conversation. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. If you have any questions, pipe in. And speaking of questions, JD asked me in the private, but I'm going to pull it in here. I wonder if Tony Leung's Mandarin was in charge of the 10 Rings when they attacked Tony's convoy. I'm not sure we have enough data to say. I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a lot because I watch a lot of other shows and stuff, a lot of breakdowns for anything I might miss, and I've seen a split on that. Some people think that he was away with his family at the time, while others seem to think that he had just come back. Now, if the MCU currently is supposed to be in 2023, after the blip and the snap and the return and all that, whatever they call it, the whole thing. So if it's in 2023 and Shang-Chi's been away for 10 years from his dad, that takes us back to 2013. Then he left his dad when he was 16, but it looked like he was maybe 8 or 9 when his mom was killed. So conceivably, Wenwu put the rings back on before Iron Man would have taken place. So he would have reconnected with his empire beforehand. Now, the way the 10 Rings work, according to the movie and stuff, is that they're like 10 separate terrorist organizations all under one banner. That, kind of like Image Comics. You got Shadowline, you got Top Cow, you've got McFarlane, you've got Eric Larson's Highbrow, and you've got Skybound, and a bunch of other. And then you've got Image Central, and you've got Eric Stevenson over Image itself running release schedules and all that other stuff. So in a sense, that is how the 10 Rings was set up, except the Mandarin was a little more dictator than Eric Stevenson is, I believe. It's been a while since I did anything with Image. But no, Eric's a great guy. Just making a joke. Most likely, Wenwu was in charge, and he wanted the Jericho missile system, which is why Tony was kidnapped in the first place. But see, that's where it gets confusing. Was Tony kidnapped to make the Jericho system, which they could have bought from Obadiah, or was he kidnapped, or was he, was he holding out on the Jericho system, and they were supposed to kill Tony? But I mean, it's a little confusing. But it does seem like Wenwu was in charge at that point. So, and I could see him changing up the deal so that he could get access to this new weapon system. But that's still kind of a little up in the air. So hopefully Marvel will address that and we'll get an answer to that. All right, getting back to Marvel's What If, the episode has, like I said, Killmonger's kind of playing chess through this whole thing. He puts himself in the situation to save Tony, and he looks like he does it to befriend Tony, to get in with Tony and get access to Tony's money and power and weapons. He then pushes it down the line to where they need the vibranium, because he probably knew that the flaw in his Gundam suit was the power source. And if anybody could come up with the power source, it would be Tony. But he probably knew that he would need something like vibranium, which would put him on the path. But well, when you start breaking down his plan, there's some flaws in it or some holes. But so he gets Tony to build these suits, and they need the power source. And I love there's a moment where Tony goes, "Oh, what if I miniaturize an arc reactor?" Nope, that's a horrible idea. And he throws it away. And it's like, but that's your idea. That's the biggie right there. But because he's not literally trying to save his own life, he doesn't go down that path. And he goes, an easier source. And the idea of going after vibranium. And that leads them to Ulysses Claw. And this is all more part of Killmonger's plan, is to have a U.S. government representative, James Rhodes, trying to purchase vibranium from Claw, and then leaking the information to Wakanda, so Black Panther will show up and try to take it back. And then in doing so, he uses that same technology that Obadiah Stane uses to paralyze Tony, that sound wave thing, which is very similar to how Claw's powers work in the comics. I thought that was interesting. But he uses that and then kills Black Panther with one of Tony's weapons, then takes the claws and kills Rhodey, the idea being that each nation would blame the other, setting us into a war. Now, of course, the scene takes place, it's right out of Avengers Age of Ultron, but time-wise, it's much earlier. There is no Ultron. And that's the other thing, is that without Tony, without Iron Man, there is no Ultron either. So, and if there's no Ultron, well, yeah. There's just so many things that you got to wonder about. Did Thanos still send Loki to take over the planet? How was that stopped? I mean, all these things that are still coming, we don't know how that would be. And that's the interesting thing with What If, is they give us a snapshot of this is what changed. But as soon as you stop and you think about it, all this other stuff, all these other dominoes you got to figure out. So I think that's why we only get a snapshot, and it doesn't look like we're going to continue with these characters, though this may be a different one. This may be different. So we see as Killmonger's moving up, he ends up taking Obadiah's spot as chief operating officer, which was supposed to be Pepper's job. Pepper's suspicious of him, but he uses the attack on Rhodey. When he goes back, Tony knows it. Tony knows the truth because of Jarvis, and tries to use the mech suit, the mech robot or the mech, to attack and take out Killmonger, and Killmonger's able to kill him with the spear, the Dora Milaje spear that he got from Claw, which is then he kills Tony with it, and the U.S. government thinks that the Wakandans did a hit on Tony, and they already killed James Rhodes, so now we're at war. And in comes General Ross to take over Stark Industries and to basically start a war with Wakanda. So yeah, it's a pretty clever manipulation on Killmonger's part. And we really get to see how intelligent he is and how his machinations are working, which I do find interesting. But as he's pulling these strings, there are moments from the movies that still happen. There's moments from Black Panther. There's where he betrays Claw, or he uses Claw's body to get into the palace in Wakanda. But now it's years earlier, way before Civil War. So T'Chaka's still alive and knows who Killmonger is, that Eric Stevenson is his nephew, that is his brother's son. and why, he grew up without a father and what happened to his father. And it gets more and more interesting as it goes, because it's this whole unraveling of this plan. But as it goes, we also see that his motivations are a little different here. Part of what he wanted to do was to get Wakanda open up and help everybody, but he kind of wanted to take over. And he's doing it a lot differently here. There's no open warfare, fight and claiming of the throne. It's more subtle because T'Chaka's still in power. So he manipulates the government to build the mech suits and send them after Wakanda, and he manipulates Wakanda to fight the mech suits and to let them in and then take over. And it's just, like I said, it's this game of chess back and forth. And the only people that seem to be on to him are Pepper and then Shuri. Shuri doesn't trust him either, but it's neat. We get to see a younger version of Shuri. She's still 12, 13 at this point. T'Chaka's still alive. Ramonda is leading the Dora Milaje, which makes a lot of sense because the Dora Milaje were not just the warriors who protected the king, but they were also potential brides. So it would make sense that T'Chaka's bride, Ramonda, would have been part of the Dora Milaje in the history of Wakanda. So that was kind of an interesting touch, and she's still the general at that point. She's still in charge of the Dora Milaje, not Okoye. Now, I don't know if that changes when, because of age, she finally steps down, or does that change when she is no longer she's now the mother of the king when T'Challa takes over. Does that change it? And, so she's no longer the general and it goes to the next generation, which would be Okoye. And then you got to wonder if they were thinking Okoye should have been his bride, or, what's the other character's name from... Yep, gonna zone that. The one that he is to have a kind of a relationship with. Let me pull that up real quick because that's gonna bug me. Okoye. Nakia, yeah, Lupita Nyong'o. So she's Dora Milaje too. So it would make sense. So the whole idea is that the Dora Milaje are not just the protectors of the king, but potential brides. So Ramonda being Dora Milaje makes perfect sense. The fact that she's the general, which means that if T'Challa and Nakia had gotten together, would she then have been in charge? Or would it still be Okoye? But so Killmonger's manipulating everything and then shows his prowess in battle, hopping on one of the big rhinos and charging in and taking out the mechs that he built, which is just amazing how... I like this episode more now that I'm talking about it than I did when I watched it. Because it really is a clever manipulation thing to watch. It is Killmonger's episode, and he kind of works his way to the point where he's in good with T'Chaka, and T'Chaka makes him the next Black Panther. And then we get an incredible scene, which is when he goes to the Land of the Kings, or whatever they call it, and he has his vision. He sees T'Challa, and T'Challa basically calls him out on his deeds and tells him that your time will come, that this all will come back on you, whether it's in the land of the living or here. Things are not going to go well for you, which I think is just amazing. And then in the fight, Ramonda actually yells out for T'Challa, which may be the most appropriate homage to Chadwick Boseman, she's got tears down her face as she's fighting and yelling this out, and it's just great. And the only thing that doesn't work is when, and maybe it's not supposed to work, is when Killmonger yells out "Wakanda forever," because it doesn't sound right coming from him. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't deliver it properly or if he wasn't supposed to. If they told him not to give it a good delivery so that it doesn't sound right. And I kind of think that might be what they did, because that really should have been, that's T'Challa's line, and it doesn't work coming out of Killmonger. But yeah, Killmonger manipulates things back and forth, but it ends with the U.S. ready to go to war with Wakanda and bring in the Jericho missiles and stuff. And Pepper is just losing control of everything. And she knows that, in her heart, she knows that Killmonger's behind all this. But she walks into her office and finds Shuri sitting behind the desk with evidence of what's going on. And there's the discussion about them bringing him down. And that's where the episode ends. And that's where a lot of the What If episodes end. They end on, they don't give us everything. They give us a chunk of the story, and then they give us that ending. And sometimes it's this horribly sad ending, like Doctor Strange alone in that little bubble. Or Nick Fury thawing out Captain America as Captain Marvel arrives, so that maybe they can still take out Loki. Or Ego showing up to see Peter Quill at the end of the T'Challa Star-Lord one. Captain Carter coming through the barrier or the portal into 70 years in the future and realizing that Steve's going to be dead by now. We get a lot of those. The zombie one even. We've got hope, we've got the cure, and we just got to get to Wakanda. And the zombies are already in Wakanda, and Thanos is there waiting for it. These endings they give us. This is the only one that we went, well, wait, what's going to happen? And in that trailer we saw, there is a scene of Shuri, Pepper, and the Dora Milaje working together like they're in the middle of a fight. So we know this part's going to continue. And in the Guardians of the Multiverse kind of spin around thing we get T'Challa Star-Lord, we get Captain Carter, we get the Doctor Strange Supreme guy, the one who took on all the demons. We get Killmonger in the gold panther suit or leopard panther suit. And we get Gamora with Thanos' armor. So will that be part of it, where we're going to flash back to each one of these universes that we saw and get a glimpse of what's happening, the continuation, and then pull those characters? I think that's kind of an interesting idea. But again, these are only half hour long. So, because I can't see them just going back and revisiting that particular episode. And then the other thing is, we know they cut one of the episodes because it was going to be 10 and now it's only 9. So what episode did they cut? We're assuming that we're going to get the Guardians of the Multiverse. Is that the episode they cut? We're going to get all the build-up and then next season we get Guardians of the Multiverse? Or is it one of the setup episodes where we meet somebody like Gamora? Excuse me. Or there's a clip of Black Widow throwing a shield, and we've seen that kind of tactical gear version. But we haven't actually seen her yet. The only episodes we've had Black Widow, she's dead. So, not really sure what's going on with that. And we still have Party Thor. And I believe Party Thor is going to be the next one. And in the mid-season clip, we see the Grandmaster working a DJ table, and we see Korg dancing. So what era are we getting Party Thor from? And by the way, the idea of Party Thor is that it's Thor who never loses his worth. He, maybe they don't put the enchantment on. Maybe Odin doesn't put the enchantment on the hammer. He just exiles Thor, but he doesn't take away the hammer. So he never really learns his lesson. And that's the Thor we get. That's kind of an interesting take on the character. So, and I think that's going to be the next one. Let's see. JD says, I'm thinking there's a 2-part episode. The second part will be in the first of next season. Oh, so you're thinking that the last 2 episodes were a 2-parter and they just carry the second part over to season 2? It's possible. I got the impression that it was an episode that they could move without really affecting anything, but I don't know anymore. We're 6 episodes in. There's only 3 episodes left. We haven't seen Party Thor. We haven't seen Gamora and Thanos' armor. We haven't seen that Black Widow. And now we've got footage of Dancing Korg, and we've got footage of Pepper and Shuri working with the Dora Milaje. So, I mean, that's a lot of stuff to deal with and put together the Guardians of the Multiverse. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how this season is going to end, how far we're going to get. Maybe this season's all the build-up and next season will be the payoff. I don't know. And I'm kind of curious why they bumped the episode. Because it seems like with the gap they have between Marvel's What If and Hawkeye, which is going to be, was it 9 weeks? I figured it out the other day. It's an insane amount of time. Because we just had 6, so 7, 8, 9. So October 5th will be the last episode. Then you've got... So the 12th, 19th, 26th, 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd. You've got 7 weeks. And maybe you put a making of the week after, and you do the Marvel Legends things for Hawkeye the week before. But still, you've got 5 solid or 7 weeks without a new Disney Plus show. No Star Wars, no Marvel. It's been a long time since they did that because we got Bad Batch in that whole period. We don't have the Bad Batch now. We don't have a filler thing. So, be interesting to see how they're going to fill that time. Is there a sudden surprise show, or is it just nothing for, hey, tune in to Turner and Hooch. All right. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a minute. Let me remind you guys that coming up right after this is a interview with Miss Jen and Jenna and Will talking to Kevin and Nathan from Behemoth Comics. And again, stay tuned near the end. I believe I spoiled their big surprise. It's kind of hilarious what happens because it's a wild-ass guess that I nail perfectly. After that, at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we've got What's in the Box with Miss Jen, and that'll go for 2 hours. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, we have an interview where Kyle and Jenna talk to Tom Hutchinson of Big Dog Inc. Remember, we've got an Instagram and a TikTok. Both are _EXP1. You can sign up to follow either one of those. And we put a lot of fun stuff on both. The TikTok, we do a lot of cute little videos, stuff like that. You should check it out. And I will be back next week on Tuesday with my special guest, Image co-founder, longtime Marvel Comics artist, creator of Shadowhawk, and all-around great guy and head of Shadowline, Jim Valentino. I'll be talking to him on Tuesday, so you'll want to tune in for that. All right, guys, let's wrap it up here. JD, thanks for tuning in. JD producer, thanks for running the board. Have a great evening, everybody. See you next week.